Listen to the JT Sports Podcast on all podcasting platforms and leave a 5-star review.
The Pac-12 has been my favorite conference in college football to watch this season. I think that this conference hasn't been talked about enough. Yes, the Big Ten and the SEC get the majority of everybody's attention, and rightfully so, because those currently are the two best conferences in the sport right now. But the Pac-12 has some really good teams, and there also has been a lot of very good games played in the Pac-12 this year. And Utah versus USC was another great game that this conference put on display. Now, Utah got the win, 43-42. I want to give a huge round of applause to Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham for deciding to go for the 2-point conversion to win the game. Now, you may say, oh, JT, you only like the decision because it worked. Even if it didn't work out, I still would have agreed with the decision, because at that point of the game, Utah had all the momentum. They just went down the field and got a big touchdown. And then you go ahead, you get the 2-point conversion. You pretty much seal the win if your defense can hold on for a couple more seconds. Meanwhile, you look at the rest of college football. This season, you have teams going into overtime. They lose momentum. Or you have some teams who don't even get to make it to overtime because their kicker misses the game-tying field goal to send the game to overtime. So for Kyle Whittingham, that decision took a lot of guts, and it took some big balls to make. But it worked out, and it was a really good decision. You see, when it comes to deciding when to go for it on 4th down or when to attempt a 2-point conversion try, it's not all about analytics. Sometimes it's all about filling out the game, filling out where your team is from a momentum standpoint. And I heard Urban Meyer say this a couple years ago when he was part of the Fox sports team before he took the Jaguars job. And I think for Kyle Whittingham, that decision kind of was reflective of, understanding the fact that Utah right now had the momentum. Their offense was clicking. They were hot. USC's defense couldn't really get a stop. So you look at how this game went. And earlier on, you would have thought that this was going to be a blowout because USC was out to a 21-7 start. I had a homeboy post on Twitter, the Pac-12 plays no defense. However, it's funny because in this game, you look at the box score and you're probably going to see a lot of stats put up, a lot of crazy numbers. Both of these quarterbacks balled out. However, these defenses definitely played a tale of two halves. USC's defense played well in the first quarter, but Utah's defense, on the other hand, they had a stretch in this game where they were able to slow down USC's offense enough that it allowed Utah's offense to start getting hot. And once Utah's offense got going, it didn't really matter if Utah's defense got another stop, because Utah was going to be able to keep up with USC's offense. Plus, the Utes got the ball to begin the second half. So they were able to tie the game 28-28. However, USC's offense was also rolling, and they got a lot of big plays in this game. Caleb Williams, I definitely see why many people view him as a future number 1 overall pick. And I'm not even going to lie to you. I kind of thought that Caleb Williams was just a tad bit overrated prior to watching this game. I didn't think that he had a very good arm. I know that he was pretty accurate, but boy, he has a really accurate deep ball. Not just that, but he's Houdini. He was rolling out one play. He kind of faded back and threw a pass to Mario Williams that almost went for a touchdown. It would soon lead to a Travis Dye touchdown after, but that was a ridiculous throw. And he doesn't have a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen arm, but he has a pretty strong arm. So you look at how well he played. He had 3 touchdowns in the first half. Absolutely ridiculous. This offense itself had 3 touchdowns their first 3 possessions. I didn't think that Utah's defense was going to get a stop, honestly. But they were able to settle in. And Cam Rising played phenomenal. Caleb Williams played very well. But Cam Rising played even better. He was 30 of 44. He threw for 415 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. But he also had 3 rushing touchdowns also. And that's what impressed me the most. And it's funny because when you look at Cam Rising, he doesn't really strike you as the quarterback who you think would be tough as nails, running through you. But that was him. I mean, he had a couple of runs. He had a first down run in this game when he carried a couple of USC defenders with him. You was like, whoa. Even the announcers were like, whoa. And I was like, whoa. He's kind of like a great value brand version of Kyler Murray in a sense. It's a little small, but he's really quick, agile, and he really picks up yards. And he's really good. He was the star of this game. Him and Dalton Kincaid probably could share player of the game honors. I mean, Dalton Kincaid was a one-man wrecking crew. 16 receptions, 234 receiving yards. Think about that. 234 receiving yards for a tight end. Not a receiver, a tight end. In today's age of college football, how many offenses are really featuring their tight ends? Not too many. And not just that, but he went for over 200. Before halftime, when Utah scored that last touchdown going in to make it 28-21, Dalton Kincaid literally got the ball on every single play that drive. Literally. USC had no answers for him. No answers. And I think when you look at overall how the receivers played for USC, I mean, Mario Williams, Jordan Addison, they were phenomenal. But Dalton Kincaid's performance was even more phenomenal. I mean, for him to have the kind of game that he had for a tight end in today's age of college football is ridiculous. But what really surprised me late in this game was Utah's defense getting that stop after they had that red zone fumble, which is something that Utah has been doing a lot of this season. I don't know why they struggle to take care of the ball in the red zone. They turned it over in the red zone against Florida. They had a red zone turnover against UCLA. I mean, they need to do better. They need to do a better job of taking care of the football inside the 20. You can't be giving up free possessions when you get inside that range. But I think their defense came up really big after that turnover. Because that's really when USC's offense should have put the nail in the coffin. But they didn't. And they got the ball back. And that's eventually what turned the tides and helped them win that game. Because it's funny. USC's offense seemed like it couldn't be stopped in this game at all. But there were stretches when Utah's defense was able to get 2-3 stops. And it was able to help their offense put some points up and get back into the game and eventually win the game and buy their offense time to get going. And you see, every time USC got put in a situation where their offense really had to get a big play to really keep the momentum on their side, they weren't able to do it. And the biggest drive when they needed points the most, they weren't able to do it. It's crazy because they were able to get points in bunches, but when they needed points in the critical spots, they ain't get them. So hats off to Utah for getting a much needed win. This loss now puts the Pac-12 in a situation where UCLA is probably your only hope of now getting into the college football playoffs without it having to come down to the hands of the committee. And then when it comes to the Pac-12 championship picture, Oregon and UCLA are still undefeated in conference play. So for Utah, USC, not only are they going to have to continue to win or win out, but they're also going to need some additional help as well. Plus, they got to beat them. So let me know how you guys feel about Utah's win over USC 43-42. I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. Remember that the podcast is available on every single podcasting platform: Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts from. The JT Sports Podcast is available. And I will see you guys with another episode shortly of the JT Sports Podcast.